no matter where you as an individual get in your life, no matter where, never stop learning. Learning is, and what I mean by that is not just signing up for another course or something. You can learn from basically everything and anything around you, from anyone and everyone that is around you. Maybe if that person is above you, below you, doesn't matter, or whatever. Never stop learning, because learning will, it'll keep that momentum on in your mind that you want to do something creative, you want to do something strategic.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Drishti and we are very excited to have all of you join us today. On this show, we talk to CX and technology experts from around the world. We explore, uncover, and share fresh insights on creating experiences that your consumers will remember and look forward to. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no code digital CX platform, which is available across 15 channels with 53,000 solutions created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by INC Magazine, Tech World CIO, and many others. Engati recently won the Cody 2021 award for the best AI driven technology solution. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the CX podcast, receiving upwards of 500,000 visitors annually. And now let's welcome today's guest. Ashna Patel is a manager of customer success and support at Ascent Cloud LLC. Ashna has over 8 years of experience in customer success and account management. Along with this, she has also co founded CS Insider to support those trying to break into customer success and move up in their CS career, as well as CS Ladies, an organization to help support women in customer success through channels of mentorship, workshop, and community building. She was recently awarded as one of the top 25 customer success influencers by Success Hacker, Client Success, and Gain Grow Retain. Her specialties are customer success, of course, and adding to that, emotional intelligence, personal growth and development, support, renewal management, sales, account management, operational management, hiring, and team building. So, welcome to the show, Ashna. We are really thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, before we dive into our interview with Ashna, don't forget to
Mhm.
subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders around the globe. So, Ashna, I would like to begin with the first question that how do emotional intelligence and customer success function together?
That's a great question. So I think it has to do with, first, I think understanding a little bit about, emotional intelligence is what that is and how is it going to, and then we can dive into kind of, how is it affect and work with customer success. Emotional intelligence, I mean, there's tons of resources and books and everything on it. But I think the gist of it is that your ability to understand others' emotions and trying to put them before your needs to help them, to support them. And I think it's just like a summary of what emotional intelligence is. It's like you're taking the time to, do a little bit of a research, do a little bit of a, self-awareness and self-reflection kind of to understand what's going on. And how it affects with customer success is kind of, customer success may be a new term in an industry right now or most recently, but it's been out there. And I think every business is one way or another is doing customer success. Some businesses have defined departments of customer success. Some just, might be calling it something differently. But overall, every company is doing customer success. And what is customer success is, I like to always say this, it's a combination of data and feelings. It's, your ability to the data that you're getting back from your customers, data that you're getting back from feedback. You're selling your product, then you're getting the data back. Your ability to take that data and then analyze in terms of, how are we gonna use this data to improve our products? How are we gonna use this data to renew this customers that we have? All of that happens in the post-sale cycle, that can be customer success. But we can't define that in that little bucket. Customer success is basically done by everyone in an organization one way or another. So the linking between emotional intelligence and customer success and how they work together, it's just as simple. Without emotional intelligence, customer success is simply not possible, because you have to think about your customers. You have to put their needs before your needs. You have to understand, with every interactions that you have with your customer, what are they thinking about their surroundings, what's going on with them. Understand your customers, know them a little bit. And I think all of that, when you're whether your CSMs are doing, your account managers are doing it, your support team is doing it, or anyone, even your product team, emotional intelligence helps you, take that further steps with customer success. That is why both of those functions work very well together.
That's actually a good way of summing that up, and I agree completely. So, like you mentioned that what actually emotional intelligence is. So, if you could shed light on why is it important in every business, and how can businesses actually improve customer engagement with emotional intelligence?
Yep. Yeah. Definitely. So I'll break it down into a couple of different parts. First, I think I mentioned a little bit about what emotional intelligence is. And to kind of summarize it again, it's being able to understand your own um, emotions, to be able to view the situation as if like you're looking at it from a third perspective, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and then taking actions against it. I think that's all of that is emotional intelligence. I read a book about emotional intelligence. Initially, it was around Daniel Goleman, and obviously his emotional intelligence book. And I think that book and other resources that I've read along, over the years, you can break it down into different parts of it. But the five major parts of emotional intelligence that I found was self-awareness, self-reflection, motivation, self-regulation, social skills, which includes communications and all of that, and empathy. Empathy was a big one. Now that leads us into the second question, which is why is it important in the business, and how we can use it to improve the customer engagements and whatnot. So I read an article, I think it was in a Forbes article or something, and there was something along the lines of emotional intelligence, and it noted that according to the research that they've done, empathy is one of the most important leadership skill in a business. Now, I'm mentioning about leadership is because it's a top-down concept. Emotional intelligence, I can't be an individual contributor sitting here and just full of emotional intelligence, but if it's not top-down, it's not going to work, because it needs to start from the top and it needs to come down through it. So the important and how it can help improve the customer engagement is because if you have embedded an emotional intelligence aspect in every part of your organization, everybody is going to take a second before responding to one another, to your customers. Everybody is going to take time to reflect on the conversations that they're having with your customers. If we're getting feedback from our customers, how are these feedbacks helping us? Getting a negative feedback is actually a pretty good thing, because you get to learn about what is it that you need to work on, whether it's for a person, whether it's for your services, whether it's for your product, you know, and in here, you could have multiple different, surveys and NPS and CSATs and whatever. There's so many types of different surveys people do to learn about, are my customers engaged? Are my customers happy? Do they want to stick with us? Do they want to stay with us? Do they want to renew with us? And what are you doing with all this data? And I think there's one part of it is we're going to analyze it, and we're going to see, how many customers are happy and not happy. But emotional intelligence helps you take it a step further. So basically, it's like recognizing and understanding your customer's strengths, but also your own strengths as a business, to think before doing. A lot of time what we see is, in a world where competition is a second nature to any organization, a lot of time what companies do, that they're creating products based on competition. So, my competitor has this functionality, I need to go get it so that I can get but they're not understanding there's a major difference. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but there's a major difference, because doing what your competitor does and going behind it, that's one way of doing it. But are you also at the same time finding or trying to find out that is that really what your customer needs? Or is that something just that because your competitor has it and one or two customer probably, that you lost, need it or not? So that's just one example of just understanding this whole concept and putting the customers in the middle of it. And emotional intelligence can really help with all of that. So empathy is huge. Reflection is great from top down. If your internal leadership people needs to have reflection strategies. They need to have spend time reflecting on what feedback they're getting from their employees, their executives and others, and individual contributors who are working with the customers in their day-to-day also need to learn from reflecting on, hey, I've had a 1 hour call with my customer. What did I learn? Is there anything that I could have done differently? Were they really happy? They said they're okay, but does that really mean that they're okay? Their stats are telling me that they're doing well, but I just got off a call with them, and it doesn't look like that they're doing well. So diving deeper within that, and emotional intelligence can help you do that. So a long answer to this, but it's basic. It's basically, in a way, it's embedded in every aspect of business. It's just, you need to just recognize it, and also it needs to be top down in the organization.
Right. That's something that I would agree with. Like, I have worked in the customer success, and the thing is that when it comes from the top down, like you said, it's where you can actually enable things and help out customers, because just one individual being emotional intelligence and empathetic is not going to work out. So yeah.
No.
So what are the ways to improve emotional intelligence in the workplace?
So I'll tell you, there's a different ways. Again, as we talked about, it's a company-wide approach. It needs to be top down. So I'll break it down into two different aspects. One is individual approach, as in me as an individual, no matter where I am in an organization, can do. And the other one is as an organization. If I'm running a company, or if I'm part of a company, if I'm leadership of a company, if I hold a team or whatnot, how can I, what are ways that I can improve? So as an individual, first start observing how we react to people. Emotional intelligence is something that it starts with us first and then others. That's why it's a lot of the aspect of it has self in it, self-awareness, self-regulations, self-reflection. It starts with me first and then others. So observing how we react to people, and it is as easy as, sometimes we feel, sometimes we might not be looking at a certain conversations that we're having with the customers, spending time to take it, spending time to just dive deeper with what just happened with that conversation. Something that worked with me in the past, and that we suggested to other people, is scheduling 10 minutes after every call that you have, just to reflect on that call and make notes of those. That is also important. So something you could do as an individual. Self-evaluation, basically, am I going through something in my life? I mean, it's you can't really, bifurcate your personal life from a professional life. Yes, I know that we live in a world, and even COVID taught us that there is an integration between our personal and professional life. So if there's something going on in your personal life, or even at your work, something that is really on your mind, you're gonna find, loss of focus, lack of focus with your customers. You're not gonna, so I think have an ability that just sit down and be honest with yourself. Am I going through this? Be honest, have that conversation with your manager. Hey, I'm going through this. This is something's affecting me. I don't know if I did the best job of, talking to this customer or whatever. So I think, be honest with yourself, be honest with others, and be open about what's going on. So self-evaluation it's pretty good. Measure how you fit in the work environment. So basically what that means by that is are you one of those people that, overly get excited about new things? Are you one of those people that like to just, watch the show, sit in the background, kind of, so figure out those little things that is important for you, and encourage, make sure that you're communicating that to your manager as an individual. Take responsibility of your actions. I know it's easier said than done. It's a lot of times we do things we don't even realize we're doing it. But if something goes wrong, be accountable, be responsible, because that's where it shows that you coming up front, you being honest about it, that's going to show a different face of you in front of the organization than others. Think about your I think thinking about your own actions before taking those actions. So taking a 10 minutes to think about, or not, maybe 10 minutes, sometimes it's not important, but it's like how they say, think 10 times before you do anything. Sometimes it's, we just do an action, and like, we take an action, we don't have time to think about it. But that's why reflection is good. But when you can't think about ahead, do take time to think about ahead. Put yourself in others' shoes. This is the best way to define customer emotional intelligence and even customer success. I'm going to jump on a call with my customer. Here's the agenda items that I have. I'm going to quickly put myself in my customer's shoes and think about, hey, they're going through this, this, and this, and I'm going to be talking about this, this, and this. How is it going to affect them? Maybe I don't need to talk about this first. Maybe I need to talk to them about, what's going on in their life and whatnot. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. So these are some of the things that you as an individual can do it. Now, same thing can also be done as an organization. So make sure that emotional intelligence, or part of it, again, it's top-down approach, but also can be part of an onboarding process. And a lot of time I get asked, like, how can you really, emotional intelligence is not something that you can easily measure. So how can we even, something that we can't measure, put it in, an onboarding process? Well, the fundamentals of emotional intelligence that I talked about, the empathy, social skills, motivations, self-awareness, regulations, and reflection. Make sure that these are some of those fundamentals that are usually talked about in an organization. It's not just something that a CSM needs to be doing, or an account manager needs to be doing. Even sales needs to have a high quality of emotional intelligence when they're selling. Even the executives needs to have it. Leadership needs to have it. So something that you can add into an onboarding process, maybe have a course on it, maybe have a session on it that they go through. And it's, it's one of those things when you have something, if you talk about something at so many times, people start to register. It sits in their unconscious mind, and then it's there for them to kind of work through it. So make a culture of encouraging people and the job well done. I think acknowledge. I think that's a huge. Make the emotional intelligence part of the coaching style, as I mentioned. Acknowledgement is pretty good, because a lot of time a quick motivation is just by telling them, hey, that call that you had with your customer, that was an excellent job that you did. Just that sentence from a manager or an executive or something to an individual contributor, that can make their day. So I think acknowledgement, and I think it's huge. And I think make then small changes and focus on them. People listen to each other's in meetings. So make sure that if people are on mute and other have that kind of an environment. Try not to berate anyone in front of each other. If you need to talk to someone, if someone is above their boundary, have a little one-on-one with them rather than berating them in front of everyone. Encourage culture, fun, exciting activities, bonding activities. Be flexible. Understand that personal and professional life they integrate with each other. There's a balance that we need to find. We can't just leave one of the other when we're working on in our personal professional life. Make sure there is a separation between one-on-one and coaching and group coaching. It's what you need to coach in one-on-one. That's what you need to do in a one-on-one versus in a group coaching. And lastly, it's motivate, clear and honest and concise communication. I think that's an important part of it. The more transparent you are as an organization, the better that you'll see results, even until through the individual contributor. So that's a long answer, but I think that's how I would divide it into an individual and an organization.
Yeah, it does make sense. So
Awesome.
you were talking about this is how people can improve. So suppose this was the exercise or the coaching things that people did in the organizations. So how what are the ways to recognize and then measure emotional intelligence? Like of course we do not have a scale, but still if we would want to understand that is this something or is this activity something that has helped. So how can organizations or managers or leaders do that with their organization and people?
Yeah. No, a great question. So yeah, like I said, and I think I'll reiterate it because if I can find it, I would love to. Love to know that you can actually, there's a way to measure emotional intelligence, or I'm sure there is in terms of, I think emotional intelligence is more about feelings, and I think measuring feelings, it's just hard to measure feelings because it changes with how it varies based on situation, based on the personality, based on the person. So same thing with emotional intelligence. What may be a second nature to me may be a surprise for you because it's just how my nature is and how my personality is versus yours. So putting that concept into an organization is also the same thing. It's, what is a second nature for an organization can be a surprise for someone else, even if it's in the same industry or same type of, work that they're doing, because it's all about the people at the end of the day. Organization is created based on people. Yes, people, processes, technologies, and all that, but major part of it is people. People is what makes culture. People is what make an organization. So that is why emotional intelligence is pretty important. Now, what we can do in a world that we live in today is we get data from feedback that we receive. And there are different ways of getting, like I mentioned earlier, the NPS survey or other type of survey when you're asking about, how are you customer feeling about our company or solution. But at the same time, if I have had, as a customer, if I have had a bad experience recently, there's a bigger chance that I'm going to forget about the whole good experience that I've had earlier, and I'm going to make a decision off of that, bad experience that I've had on that survey. So timing is important. I mean, when are you sending the survey? What state of mind are the people on the receiving end are to answer the survey? Because again, it's from the people to the people. Even on the other side, it's the people that we are aiming to please. So why I'm mentioning this is because ways to recognize and measure for emotional intelligence is really starts with people and ends with people. So there isn't a perfect solutions or a recipe or a formula that we can just plug in and like, plus or minus or divide this by this and then you get this EQ score. Well, maybe in the future we might have something like that, but or not. But I think the way that it works is finding these, trying to find the small changes that are happening. So as an organization, if we're talking about internal stuff, why are you if your employees are behaving in a certain way, you're getting a lot of turnovers or something like that, emotional intelligence can help you. It's because you're going to deep dive into what's really happening. Why are they behaving in a certain way? You talk about an individual, so measure it in a way that, if this person is always so excited, always on the video, on the team meetings and talking about, and all of a sudden for the last couple of weeks, this person is not even doing anything. That's your way of measuring that, the bar used to be here, and now the bar for this individual is right here. Now I'm going to measure that, and I need to go and have a chat with that person. So that's one way of measuring this. We can always, define a lot of this as an individual or as an organization into different factors, such as the empathy, the communication, the social skill, self-awareness and what I mean by that is measuring. It's really, really hard to measure, but the way that you can recognize is, are your, the team members that you have, let's just take one team, like a support team. It's a lot of reactive, things goes on in the support versus a lot of proactive, but even with that, Are your team members showing empathy to your customers? A lot of time when cases or tickets come to support, that the customers are almost pissed because something's broken and they need to get it fixed. And then, they're not in the state of mind to understand that, it's not the person that you're talking to, it's the solution. There might be something wrong. And it's not even that. So are they, do you have the support members that are taking the time to empathize with them, understand and then respond to them? So these are the different ways of, the measuring. And then again, you can always do surveys. What better way of getting a feedback, and the surveys could be not less numerical and more of feelings based. So just clearly asking your customers, maybe 6 months in advance of a renewal cycle. If you were to renew today, if we were to send you a renewal notice tomorrow, would you renew with us? Just asking them ahead of time. Are they happy? Understanding that, and a lot of the others. So it's really hard to measure it, but at the same time, everything that I mentioned, if those small changes and things that you do as an individual or as an organization can help improve.
Those are actually really good ways, and I think when people practice that, they would come to know more and more about how they are seeing the change in the behavior, like you mentioned. So yeah.
Great.
Any other sound bites that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I would say, I always talk about this, and I think I'll mention this. No matter where you as an individual get in your life, no matter where, never stop learning. Learning is, and what I mean by that is not just signing up for another course or something. You can learn from basically everything and anything around you, from anyone and everyone that is around you. Maybe if that person is above you, below you, doesn't matter, or whatever. Never stop learning, because learning will, it'll keep that momentum on in your mind that you want to do something creative, you want to do something strategic. And as a customer success individual, that is all gold to me. So it's, never stop learning, I would say.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Ashna.
Of course. Thank you.
So, your insights, I think, and everything that you have discussed about emotional intelligence and customer success, it is really, really valuable, and the audience, I think, is really going to enjoy this interview.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I hope that they do. And if there's anyone has any other questions, you know where to find me. Just LinkedIn, Ashna Patel. I'll be happy to have a conversation. I love talking about customer success and emotional intelligence, to be honest. So yeah, thank you.
So, we'll be back with a new episode with a brand new expert soon. So, stay tuned, and we'll see you around for the next one.